My cousin did something so stupid, but you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and say it's my grandfather's fault. What my grandfather did was say, hey, whoever can get into an Ivy League school and graduate first gets my entire inheritance. Okay, game on, Grandpa. My parents always taught me to respect elders, no matter what, because according to them, quote, they have the perfect combination of experience and wisdom. I've doubted that a lot, but well, it's not like I can change their minds. I say this because of the case of my grandpa, an elderly man who's very old-fashioned, you see. He studied at one of the Ivy League colleges. I will avoid giving the specific name to dodge problems in the comment section. And he considers these places, Columbia, Cornell, Harvard, Yale, as basically the only student centers that are worth studying at. And this is why he wanted that education to all his children, which aren't few, 7, and all with the same wife like nothing. Well, however, the plan did not work out the way he wanted it to, and the closest his children came to these colleges was when they flew over them on the trip they took. Well, none of my uncles got in, either due to a lack of motivation or poor grades. Because of this, I can understand sometimes why he's so grumpy. 2 of them did not even go to college, and my grandfather considered them almost useless. That's why he didn't want the same fate for his grandchildren, so he came up with a plan. A plan that to this day I'm surprised that no one in the family has objected to it. He said that the first grandchild to graduate from one of my colleges that fall into this category would receive half of his inheritance, and believe me, we are not talking about a small sum of money. My grandpa's a man who amassed a small amount of wealth during his lifetime, even at his 70-something year of age, and to this day he's still the ringleader of a group of men who dominate the monopoly in the city. Of course, he's not the most altruistic man in the world, and he said that the only way he could help families is in education or if there was a wealth of emergency. Anyways, one of the only times I didn't see him hesitate to help was when one of my uncles, one of the so-called hopeless ones, had an accident on his motorcycle and ended up in the ER for almost a week. Expenses that came out, expenses that Grandpa covered. He would just say that he was his son, and there he spared no expense of any kind. But as soon as my uncle could barely get out of bed, my grandpa cut off all the help outright. And now, speaking of college in my family, I have to talk about my cousins, including myself and my brother. We are about 14 grandchildren, so unlike any other, some are into art, some are into science, some are into sports, but very few have such a definite path. I'm the 4th oldest cousin, and above me, the only one worth mentioning is my next cousin, Dennis. You'll know why my discomfort with him is so justifiable. Our older cousin decided to go to Canada with his high school sweetheart, so he didn't have to take much interest in advanced studies. The next cousin studied at a local university, and Dennis, well, ever since Grandpa announced the inheritance thing, has had his mind set on studying at an Ivy League college. Taking some pretty tough engineering courses, he wasn't the best student at the time, let me tell ya. And it's not that I'm exalting myself with this mistake, but objectively it was like that. He and I went to the same high school, and he wasn't gifted as a student. He passed up his initial opportunities to go to college, and but when he found out that Grandfather offered a reward for education, that's when he became interested in studying. Well, that's not the way it is. He has been preparing to enter one of the colleges, sorry, I'm still not going to say the specific name, to have the inheritance, only looking at it from an unpleasant point of view. He would then have to wait for our grandpa to pass away to get his hands on the money. Still, he's only doing it for a selfish reason, with no real interest involved, unlike me, which is the opposite case. I don't know if it's because of family or self-imposed issues, but from a very young age, I made an effort in my education, and I say that without bringing Grandpa up. I say that because the people I admire the most are businesswomen who created their path from scratch. It's quite a long, difficult journey, but I felt I could do it. Of course, Grandpa's financial help is great, but I'm sure Dennis will get it first, because he's already put in the paperwork for his income, and it usually just doesn't take long for them to give answers. I, on the other hand, still have to wait a few months just to get out of various projects before I can consider applying for scholarships. I feel a little frustrated because everything looked like I might be the one in the lead, but I guess fate wanted my cousin to have the benefit. I talked it over with my parents and my brother is the only one who understands me, and even at one point went so far to talk to Grandpa, telling him that I deserve the inheritance, not Dennis. This was a big problem because Grandpa relied, and he said, well, that he had already outlined his terms and that he didn't want any of his grandchildren to do that for the money, even though it looks like he did everything for that purpose. This conversation reached my cousin's ears, and Dennis started to have a very nasty attitude towards my brother and me. He started saying that he would be enjoying himself with his inheritance as if he were a spoiled child. Ugh. Update number 1. This is insane. Unjust, even illogical. Just a month after I told you about my cousin, our grandpa gave him the inheritance all at once, just because he was selected in college. Let's see, I'm very upset, and right now all I want to do is throw my laptop against the wall, but I'm trying to control myself. In part, Dennis called a family meeting. Or, well, his parents did, my aunt and uncle. They called a family meeting solely and exclusively to say that one of our family members were going to be a part of the Ivy Leagues. They had a family meeting just for that stupidity. But you should have seen my grandpa's face. It was as if a child had been given an unlimited supply of his favorite candy. I'd never seen him so happy, and he joined in the celebration with a smile. There was even one of my uncles, the hopeless one, precisely, who said a comment that made my blood boil. "Oh, honey, he beat you. He truly beat you." Just those little words alone were enough to ruin the whole evening for me, but no one else paid any attention to it. It was all directed towards Dennis, who was told that he was going to be showered with gifts, for his new college life, of course. But the last straw was my grandfather, who said he was going to move up with the inheritance so he could give it to Dennis at once. We were all left with a what? Well, someone please explain to my grandpa, a graduate of prestigious colleges, that inheritance is given when the party who owns the assets kicks the bucket, not before. I know he was excited, and I feel like I speak from envy, but maybe it's not so much that, but the fact that it's being rubbed in my face at every turn. I had to bite my tongue at various times because everyone knew that I had the slightest complaint or claim. I was going to end up being branded as the envious cousin. I could only vent to my brother, who said that it was all nonsense, and that we were surrounded by a bunch of sheep. My brother is a very against-the-system type of boy, but he always has me as his priority. Otherwise, everyone is super thrilled with Dennis. At one point, I remembered my parents, somewhere between disappointed and sad, started telling Grandpa and Dennis that they could, be considerate of me in an overly pathetic way, just in case I wasn't enough shamed. Update number 2. Hey guys, how have you been? It's been a while since the last update, and the truth is that I got so depressed that I told myself I wasn't going to make any more of these posts on the page, because I felt as if I was living in a sea of injustice. To make matters worse, by the time it also ended with my boyfriend, and I really wasn't in the mood to write or even study, so I put aside my college application, something I regret quite a bit. I think my grandfather could even tell how this whole money thing affected me, and far from being angry, he felt a little bad for me, but things were done. Dennis graduated from college and is already in a pretty big job, where he is admired and respected by everyone. Our family included, of course. He just keeps bragging that he graduated from such a college to anyone who comes across him, and it's very annoying and cocky of him. I don't know if I would be doing the same thing, though. And speaking of the same thing, I decided to get back to writing for 2 reasons. First, because of the update I have in my life. It's been a few years since the original post now. And second, because I was bored and remembered the page by mere chance. Anyways, I have to tell you that I'm kind of excited because I finally, thanks to my brother mostly, decided to apply to one of the Ivy League colleges, even if grandfather's promise is over. I was working all these years to come up with some extra money for it since Dennis got all the inheritance. Well, and thanks to that, he was able to shape his life. But I plan to make my fortune from scratch, as I had planned all along. Maybe then I can get some approval from the family. I mean, look at me, creating my future based on what my family thinks of me. How pathetic. Anyways, I'll opt for the same career as Dennis, with several difficult engineering courses in between, and as my parents told me, they talked to my aunt and uncle, and there's a high chance Dennis will get me a job at the company he's with. It would be a stooping too low for me, though, as it's begging for crumbs from what he took, and he takes it upon himself to humiliate me every chance that he gets. Because that's just another point. Dennis has been a bully of sorts amongst the family cousins. Subtly, but he does it. He treats the other cousins and me down to the ground, saying that we're inferior for not following his example and that I'm rather the one who can catch up to his level. We all felt super humiliated by those comments, and I discovered that they were and still are the reason I don't feel capable of starting college. Well, guys, it's been a rough process and, personally speaking, exhausting. But I want to be able to have a chance at a better life for myself and my family. Oh, right. What I forgot to say is that Dennis moved his side of the family. He never wrote to my aunt and uncle again and only saw them at family events. He's given himself so much to work with and his life of luxury that now he barely has time to say hello. And when he does, he devotes himself exclusively to humiliating us. You might be saying, this crazy woman's always talking about her cousin instead of telling us about her love life, which is what we're interested in. Okay, that's fine, but no, I won't give you the exclusive in that department. I'll tell you later how my application went. They tell me that because I'm a cousin of a graduate, I can ask for a certain assistance. At least Dennis will be of some use, even indirectly. Update number 3. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. I can't believe this thing. It's huge. This is huge. No, beyond huge. It's astronomical. I just came from the college offices and you would not guess what I found out. Let me get straight to this. Dennis is a fraud, a phony, a fake, a two-timer. Or at least his diploma's fake. Gosh, I'm even shaking while writing this. I investigated the case even further, and this is the proof that God does exist and seeks for the old and justice for all. I'll put it this way. I went to the university office like any other person who wants to join their rankings. I spoke to the receptionist and whoever else I had to talk to them about, telling them that my cousin was a graduate of the university and wanted to talk to some of the professors he had for a reference. Of course, I also brought my transcript and resume. However, I was told that I had to make the formal application. Not only that, but when it was researched in the system, I gave my cousin's name, Dennis, but there was no results. Thank God the receptionist wasn't busy, as she was able to manually search the precinct documents. But nothing! Dennis's name was nowhere to be found. I even searched with her, but we didn't find his anything. The girl, I think, was new, so she was a little confused. We went to the system, and we found out that Dennis had indeed enrolled, and was part of the list of entrants but not graduates. Well, this took us by surprise. But on further investigation, I realized something and avoided telling the receptionist so as not to make a fuss. I simply said that I got confused and was extremely embarrassed, but I was so excited that I didn't think of any of it. I started connecting threads and knew something. Dennis had always been strangely secretive about college and his courses. I don't know if this was what he took, only engineering courses and not the full degree, but he should still show up in the system according to the receptionist, but there was nothing. So I came up with a theory. Dennis withdrew from college before completing his studies and made everyone in the family believe that he had graduated and everything. You will say that this is hard to believe, and at this point, looking at the situation with different set of eyes, I find it impressive as well. I have to gather more evidence since I can't really just rely on conjecture. If I can get it all right, then I think I should apply for a position as a criminal major. It's unbelievable that all this is happening, and if it's true, it would be the juiciest revenge in the world. Update number 4. It happened a lot in my family lately, and I hope you're ready to hear it all. So sit back, have your cup of coffee or tea handy, and just relax, because what's coming up is pure fire. First, the Dennis thing. After doing some research, I found out that lazy slob left college without even finishing his first year, receiving several failed grades that made him look like one of the worst in his grades. I sought testimonials from professors, and they were all very cooperative, saying they remembered the guy not for the best of reasonings, and he thought that he was in high school or something, not understanding the academic excellence being imparted to him. Other than that, he was getting carried away with parties and fraternity stuff, as if that had been the focus for getting into the place. First of all, to corroborate this, I went over to my aunt and my uncle's house where Dennis' supposed diploma is hanging on the wall, which I took a picture of and discovered certain little things. There were little details in the design that would make it look like it was authentic from the university, and that, while I understand, is super, super illegal. I don't want to imagine the problems Dennis would have if his super prestigious job found out that this was a trap. Or rather, it's not that I want to imagine it. It's like I've already started the act on it. It turns out that a certain anonymous person took the case into his own hands and sent him all the information. I just told you in a message by mail that reads the follow: Dear company, I'm writing the message anonymously to inform you of a current issue with one of your institution's employees. It's Dennis, who, after a previous investigation, we've realized that his university degree is fake, and that he has no relationship with the institution of the Ivy League school, beyond a couple of semesters in an academic year, and other such things to make matters worse. If you're wondering if I could really have done that, the answer is yes. I asked a friend for help so I could send everything by anonymous mail, but not only that, I attached several corroborating documents and testimonials to the research to make the company's job easier. I did that a little while ago, and I still haven't heard from Dennis. I'm a little nervous about what might happen, but I'm confident that I'm blameless, and was able to make it look like it was something that anyone who wanted was the best for their company could do. What's more, at the end of it all, in the farewell, I stated that this was all concerning keeping the company's record clean. A bit of a bootlicker, if you ask me, but you can never be too sure about such things. Update number 5. It all started as a family meeting that Grandpa called, and we were all present, even the little ones. It was a couple days after my last update, and I pretended I did not understand anything that was happening, because I didn't know the real reason. But no, when we all arrived, he spoke. He said it wasn't a lunch or something similar, but to say some things that he had that was concerning him. When he mentioned Dennis, I remembered him turning pale, as if he already foresaw everything that was coming. Just as I saw him with a tremendous smile on his face at the time, I saw him as disappointed to the point of tears. Grandpa told him that he was ashamed of him for what happened, but to everyone's surprise, including mine, Dennis also looked shocked as if he didn't know anything about the subject of his job. It turns out that our grandpa was friends of the owner of the company. That's right. So they took the case to him directly, at the owner's request, as they knew that he could handle it better than they could. But that meant one thing: drama. Family drama. Grandpa began by saying a speech that will remain in everyone's memory. In fact, I'm going to transcribe a fragment because my brother, the devilish one, managed to record some of it. After all, in his words, the suffering and humiliation of Dennis had to remain for posterity, and I feel he was right. And I quote you. I'm an old man, but what just happened is wrong regardless of age. Some good friends, college brothers of mine, told me that Dennis here, a grandson whom I love, faked it so he could make it, right into the company he works for. That's pretty serious for a lot of reasons, but the one that concerns me is that he took advantage of my kindness, and that he can't go unpunished. I found out this diploma he has is fake, a phony, fugazi, confirming my initial suspicions. You see, I graduated from, you know where, and for me it was an experience like no other. I wish my children the same luck, but none of them could for one reason or the other do it. But if any of my grandchildren wanted to, I thought I would offer them a small stipend for all the effort it takes. You have no idea how excited I've been for so many years since the first day you were born, so that you could just go take the gift of education home with you, for this is the best thing a human being can ever have." I felt like that was a business meeting and we were all about to get fired. Dennis turned red faster than you could ever imagine, and I don't remember any other more humiliating moment for someone. I was quite surprised at how, at his age, Grandpa still prepared enough to deliver such an elegant speech. The rest of the conversation was a scolding to Dennis's parents and a bit of a threat to their children, telling them that they had not raised their grandchildren well enough. It was also caught very off base that it confirmed his suspicion. Did he already know about it? If so, I'm surprised that a man in his 70s is still so on top of things. Gradually, he began to raise his tone, and the whole family kept quiet because they knew that he was right. He told Dennis that he should be thankful that he wasn't going to get sued by the company or the college, because faking degrees is pretty serious. He lectured all of us grandchildren in words that even the little ones could understand. He also said that I was the one who deserved the inheritance, or that anyone deserved the inheritance more than he did. Whatever comments Dennis had said against me, Grandpa destroyed twice as much, and I understand that it gave us some satisfaction at Dennis's haughty attitude. The funniest part of the whole thing, though, even despite all of this just happened, a couple of cousins are considering getting into one of those colleges, but under sports and music major. I hope they do well with those projects, but they need to be very clear that if they're going to start on that education adventure, then they should do it under the motto that education is above all else, and not doing it for the higher motive of the money. Or, well, at least having the money to have the life they wanted. My grandpa knew I was inside of getting into one of the colleges on the list, and he congratulated me, although he was still very upset. So his congratulations weren't as effusive. And if you're wondering, no, I don't regret this thing that I did. I was just looking for a little balance in everything, and maybe guided by revenge for the bully. Yes, maybe, but regardless, I still feel like I would have done it. I'm afraid to tell anyone else because you can never trust anyone too much, not even my own brother, who was too happy about everything that happened. He told me that he wished that he's been the one to reveal the truth, and he started to make conjectures, but none of them ended up hitting the nail on the head. Anyways, thank you guys for listening. So do I blame OP for setting up her evil cousin and mailing all the evidence to his job about his degree being phony and fake? Absolutely not. I mean, we're talking about somebody that was tormenting OP for OP's entire life. And the fact that Grandpa just nonchalantly handed over an entire inheritance to one single person, and, well, I hate to say it, but I guess he did deserve to get scammed. He didn't even look into it. He didn't even see if he really graduated. I mean, how do you even fake a degree and land a job? Don't they check this sort of thing? I don't know, that story was wild to me, but at the end of the day, we find out that the inheritance was taken back, and Grandpa found out that, well, one of the cousins was a fat phony and a liar. So guys, let's discuss this story in the comment section down below. I would love to hear your advice about what you would have done if you were in OP's shoes. So let's discuss it. My name's Mr. Reddito, and I narrate stories like this every day. The best way to never miss one of these stories is just by hitting that subscribe button with the bell notifications on. That way YouTube will let you know when a new story's out. I'll see you guys tomorrow, and of course, remember, it's cool to be kind. Peace.